Hello, 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 wonderful mindset learners. We are here today with myself, Tara Terzic. New name and new face, but hopefully I'll be seeing you guys around. I am in studio with Ozzy today. Hello, Ozzy, how are you?
I'm fine, and you, Tyler?
I'm very good, thank you. It's good to be with you. Please tell us, what are we doing today?
Mindset Test today will be embarking on some questions on microeconomics and also macro. We'll be focusing more into the medium questions and also the longer questions, because after all, you'll have questioning for those small type of questions.
Good, good. Sounds like we're going to be doing some busy stuff. I'm excited. Before we get started, I just want to inform you guys about an awesome competition we've got running. I would like to congratulate our previous winner, Linda Zwane. Awesome, well done. We're so happy for you. As for the rest, don't worry. We've set up the second round, which will start from tomorrow. What you can do is there's a link on our page where you can find it at facebook.com/learnextralive. From there, if you follow the URL, it'll take you to a page where you can fill in all your information and redirect you back to the Facebook page, along with the, one of the teams that you may have voted for. The soccer teams that you can choose from are the Netherlands, Costa Rica, Colombia, and Brazil. Some awesome teams. So please get going. I'm here for the Facebook page, so please hit me up with any questions you have. I'm so keen to hear what you have to say. Awesome. Thank you, Ozzy. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tyra. Good day once more, Mindsetters. Let's kick off right away. What we'll be doing today in this, we'll be working through questions and answers relating to macro and microeconomics. The first question that we have here, all these questions are adapted from the exemplar for 2014. Remember, I think all of you by now should be having those exemplars for paper 1 and 2, so that most of these questions will be found in that paper. But though the questioning and numbering of questions is not exactly the same, but you'll check with the question papers which questions were they for revision's sake. The first one is that we need to answer the following questions. The first question is, give 2 examples of injections in the economy. Remember, in this economy, we have leakages and we also have injections. So you are requested just to give 2 of those injections. I know you are not scratching about this because you know what are those injections. Right? The first one we have here is what? Government spending. Usually, government spending is abbreviated as G. Remember that G is our government spending, investment, and also export spending, of the export expenditure, if you like. So that is very important. I know that you know when we talk about this, in these injections, we always have a formula that we use. In fact, it's just a notation to put it, that we have I, as for injections, is equals to C plus G plus I, which is government expenditure, investment spending by the businesses, and also spending for exports. The second question there says, what effect will an increase in the value of rand against the US dollar have to the imports from USA? Now the question does sound a little bit tricky because it's actually asking you about USA. What is happening here? Most of the learners do not unpack the question so that they understand the question well. Let's just go through this slowly. It says what? What effect will an increase? What is the increase? Where is the increase coming from? The increase is an increase in the value. Let's try to use a smarter color. Increase in the value of rand. The rand value increases whilst the US dollar, in other words, it increases against the US dollar. So what's going to happen in these, about these imports from USA? Yes, I know everybody is saying because of the increase in the dollar, what automatically is going to happen with the dollar, the imports are going to increase in terms of what is it that if the dollar increases value, so it means the dollar is depreciating. So everybody is going to buy from USA in terms of dollars. So that the third question. The second question that we'll be dealing with is, in our example here, it's also adapted from 2014 paper 1, question 2.3, and with us it's called question 2. It says, study the graph below that depicts a simplified two-sector, very important to know, two-sector economy where E is equals to C plus I, where E is equals to C plus I. Remember, there's no time when you're doing questions like this to start thinking, what is E, what is C? People should know exactly that E stands for what? Expenditure and consumption, and then investment expenditure. And answer the questions that follow. Here is our questions there. We've got the graph. I think we have got the graph now. Listen to the graph. You must also know what is happening. And we have in our vertical axis expenditure, and we've got horizontal axis our income. I'm not going to talk much about the graph, but well, it's safe to say that we have a 45-degree line which separates the two. In other words, separates expenditure and income. In this line, we are assuming that expenditure is equal to income at every point of this curve. In other words, if expenditure is 10%, then income is also 10, and so on and so on. So this line is just the equality thereof. And our initial expenditure we've got here from 20 right up to the where it says E is equals to 0. But like I say, we don't want to unbundle this because I'm of an impression by now that according to this question, learners already know what is happening. Obviously, E1 will be an increase now of expenditure. Remember that expenditure, the increase of that expenditure, this can be the multiplier, how it applies. But let us see the questions thereof. 2.1 says, identify one participant. You see, so nice. It just asks for one participant for 2 marks. One participant in the economy above. Economy above says it is a two-sector. In other words, we have 2 participants in that economy. So you just have to mention one. But it will be very nice here because out of this, we have obviously we have what? The consumer or households, and also we have what? Businesses. Those 2 participants. Consumer, households, and firms is a two-sector multiplier. The next question says, what does the line E is equal to Y represents? Already I have mentioned here to you that E equals to Y means what? Expenditure is equals to income. That is that horizontal 45-degree line that we have shown. We always say curve in economics. So there's the answer. It shows all the possible levels of expenditure and output at which the economy is in equilibrium. Economy is in equilibrium at that line. Let's go back to it so that you know what we're talking about there. At that 45-degree, it assumes that the economy is in equilibrium. In other words, expenditure is equals to income. Going back, question 2.3 says calculate the multiplier using the formula. The formula has been given to you. That's the nice part. We have been given the formula. What do we need to do? Remember, other textbooks will say that that multiplier K, they use an A for that multiplier. We can use an A for that multiplier. It sometimes stands like this, and it says is equals to 1 over 1 minus marginal propensity to consume. I see there's a G in that situation. That marginal propensity to consume. Now, you have to be given something to work on, where to start. Firstly, we can see that the marginal propensity to consume has been given to us as MPC is equals to 0.8. I wanted to say something about this MPC situation. I remember in most of this has been coming as a question all the time. That this stands for marginal propensity to consume. So 0.8 is given to us. They say show all the calculations. Now we have to work on this question. I'll just use spaces on the side because there's plenty of spaces to work on this. If we have been given that, we say then we just replace values there. We replace those values as 1. A is equals to 1 over 1 minus what we have been given, 0.8. 0.8. Now, I know that you have got calculators sitting wherever you are, and you can already tell me the answer for this is what, which is equals to what? 1 is equals to 1 over 0.2. Now, 0.2 here with us, if you don't consume the money you earn, what do you do with it? You save. So there's two important things that we consider here is consumption versus savings. So if the marginal propensity is to consume out of 1, you spend 0.8, then it means 0.2 will be your marginal propensity to save. So that will be now your marginal propensity to save. Now, we're not running away from the answer. The answer says, what are you going to the calculation says the marginal propensity to consume, show the calculations of what? The multiplier using the following formula. Right? If you have calculated that, you'll realize that then our answer will be, there we are, 5. That K, in our case, we used an A. I did that on purpose so that people know that a question paper can come with an A and then you say, oh, no, this is the first time I see this. But yes, and it's used, some textbooks use K for a multiplier, some use A. So there is the answer that we have. It is equals to what? It's equals to 5. And remember, the question has got how many marks? 4 marks. You know, amongst other things, we need to just check and see how we can do, how best we can do this in order to be able to get maximum marks and not spend more time. So they will be marked, and there's the markings that you got 2 for interpretation of the formula and putting values in there, and the actual calculation and the answer 2 marks. So you've got all the 4 marks for you. The next question is, what is the relationship between marginal propensity to consume, MPC, and the multiplier? What is the relationship between the two? The marginal propensity to consume and the multiplier. Anybody? This is very simple. Obviously, the bigger the marginal propensity to consume, also the bigger the multiplier, and vice versa. This is simple. It simply says to you, if people consume more money, then the multiplier becomes big. But remember, we've got 4-sector multiplier where we also put our leakages. In this case, we're only looking at savings because it's 2-sector. We're looking at savings only as our leakages in the economy. So that leakage means that the amount that doesn't go into the economy is 5 of the multiplier. That's the amount. Our multiplier is 5. It means if not the other portion which was not saved, which was not consumed, is saved. So that money does not generate anything in the economy because it has leaked out of the economy. But with the 4th sector, You even have more because you got marginal rate of taxation and also have the savings and also marginal propensity to import goods. If you import goods, money is going out of the economy. It's not working anything for our economy. So our multiplier gets lesser and lesser. That's why we must see to it that we expend lots of money with our local produced goods so that we are able to generate more and more multiplier. The more the consumption of, and it's the more we have what of our multiplier. Okay, the next question that we have here will be question 3. Question 3, also taken from that paper as question 2.4. It says, explain the new economic paradigm. New economic paradigm. I've heard so many stories. You know, the learners, I know you have a very serious problem with this. You see, we have classical economists, such as Keynes. That are people who follow that economists, we call them Keynesians, or sometimes they refer to the interventionists. They are the ones who say the government must always intervene into the market so that they see what is happening. But we also have a group of economists called monetarists. Those who are always looking and say we can only regulate the economy by using monetary policy instruments such as interest rate. Right. But so the new economic paradigm says we cannot look at one single tool to use. We have to all these things put together. So we look at both Keynesian and also monetarists. In other words, we look at all the factors that we need to use in order to regulate these ups and downswings in the economy which happen all the time. The answer there we have, it says that the theories of monetarists like Friedman and Keynesians, Lord Keynes, extreme and only true understand under specific circumstances. Under real circumstances, government pursues economic growth irrespective of inherently stable or unstable market. So the government plays a very important role here. We must know that it says under real circumstances is what is happening in reality. Government pursue economic, all governments in the country, in all countries, they want what? Economic growth. And then irrespective of whether the economy is stable or not, I know that you see with economic learners and mindsetters, I know they are opening their eyes. There's a lot of things happening in the economy right now where you don't really need that textbook. You just sit and think and then relate this to what you have learned at school in economics. The economy is unstable as we talk, you know, strikes and things like that. But the governments want what? It wants economic growth. And how to achieve that? It needs to put all those policies in place, the policies of there's monetarists and the policies of Keynesians. Therefore, government aren't extreme, but transparent and follow pragmatic policies. Governments are not extreme. They don't sit and lock themselves inside the parliament or wherever they do this with monetary policy committee. That's the way I wanted. Because remember, when you say marginal propensity to consume, some people, if they say this in full, then they are going to say monetary policy committee. This is two different things, and the abbreviations are different. Remember, when you write MPC, we say in capital letters, MPC. Marginal propensity to consume, MPC. So always be careful with that. So therefore the government they are not extreme. They are going to sit, whilst they have their policies in place, but they want to know with other economists outside, political analysts, they even, for your information, I know that there are mindsetters who are participating in monetary policy challenge by the Reserve Bank. They have input right at the school level to say, if the economy is like this, what is it that we can use in order to get this economic growth without hampering certain things in the economy. The root of the new economic paradigm is embedded in the prevention of unstable conditions that will lead to contractions. Yes, that is the root. We have to prevent the unstable conditions. All these unstable conditions, we need to cool them down so that we are able to run the economy as stable as possible and avoid these contractions that may happen in the economy. According to the new paradigm, it is possible for output to rise over extended periods of time without being hampered by supply constraints and inflation pressures. Lastly, embedded in demand supply side and supply side policy. That is the end of it. It says this new economic paradigm says let us not look at demand side only or supply side policies or factors that will determine or influence this economic growth or degrowth. Let us look at both the supply and the demand side.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to interrupt you there just so we can have a quick break. I'm finding this completely awesome, and I hope that you guys are finding this completely beneficial. But let's take a quick break, and we'll see you right afterwards. Thanks, guys. Hello, Mindsetters. I'm so glad to be back with all of you. We are here with Ozzy, and just before we start, I completely forgot to tell you what awesome prizes there are to be won. So, on our Winter Schools competition, you can get some awesome prizes, including a tablet, and if not the main prize, you get redirected into the second draw for some awesome Intel and airtime. But before you do anything, you must go to these links, follow them up, and as well as visit the intel.com/explore and learn, where you can find out some more information and get whatever you need. So get onto it, and I'm here on Facebook to hear what you need. Awesome. Thank you, Ozzy.
Welcome back, Mindsetters, back to the main job. There we are with the question number 6. Now we are moving from the paper 1 and we are moving to paper 2, because we need to cover some of the questions also under microeconomics. Paper 2 is our paper 2 in our syllabus is got what? Those are the questions from the exemplar also for 2014. Paper 2, question 2.1. The first question says what? Name 2 redress methods used by the government to improve income distribution. What does the government try to improve here? It's clear and simple and straightforward. We are improving what? Income distribution. Remember, this is a very hot topic and also political in some quarters as well, that our distribution of income is not so well distributed. You find the bottom 15 or 20% earning 80% of the national income and vice versa. The top 20 earning almost nothing. So we have a very unskew distribution of income in our economy. And how do we redress? How do we address that situation? Remember that there are quite a number of methods to do that. I know that the government has implemented quite a few methods. Number 1, we know we have what we call BEE. We also have affirmative action. You know, those who were historically disadvantaged individuals in the past are given an opportunity to get into the mainstream economy in terms of offering them opportunities, business opportunities, so that the government can help in closing the economy, this income distribution. Let us just take a look at quite those few things that we need to do in order to redress this. We got land restitution, we got land redistribution, property subsidies on houses, housing subsidies, and so on. Those are quite, but to mention a few. We also have a situation, income distribution, already it is put there. I know you are saying tax is also used for income distribution, because you know those people who are earning a lot of money are actually taxed at a higher tax rate than those who are earning less. As a result, then the the authority will use that money generated from those who are earning a lot of income in order to help in delivering of those public goods for those people who are earning very little. So in a way that helps us closing the gap between the highly paid and the very little paid. I don't want to say the poor and the rich, but that's what it is. The second question says, explain how price leadership can result in consumers paying higher prices in an oligopoly. Very important. In an oligopoly. Remember, this is a market form. Oligopoly, I know you are saying wherever you are, that oligopoly is a few firms selling similar products. In other words, a few firms can be 4 or 5, selling almost similar, not really identical, but similar products. And then in that market, you realize, the one typical example that we always use all the time. I know we've got ones that we see locally in our country, but the one that stands out usually is the OPEC cartel. Oil and petroleum exporting countries always gang up to manipulate prices one way or the other. In this sector of economics in micro, we've got a way of drawing graphs to explain that, but perhaps we'll have a chance to get to that. But how price leadership can result? If one firm has got a price leadership in a oligopoly, it means they can play with their prices anyhow. They can make their price very high. And what do the tool that is left behind do? If people still buy that product, then they're also forced to increase their price in expectation of higher profits as well. So it is that kind of situation. A dominant firm may increase the price of a product. His rival will see this as a signal, or rather an opportunity to do so the same in order to increase their prices. The next question here we have the question number 7 in microeconomics. It says, study the graph below and answer the questions that follow. Where is the graph that we have? Here is the graph. I know immediately when you put your eyes on that graph, you see what? An imperfect market. Because remember last we were here, we spoke of the perfect market where is indicative of a horizontal demand curve. So a market in a perfect market, just to mention in passing, it's going to have what? This horizontal demand curve. This demand curve also stands for average, which is called average revenue, and also marginal revenue also. So 3 of these curves are running on the same same graph. So in other words, there's 3 graphs in one here. Like I said in the past, we can say draw another line there just for interest's sake, so that people know that there's 3 graphs there. One is for demand, one is average revenue, the other one is marginal. And then when you see a downward sloping demand curve or average revenue curve there, and you see a marginal revenue curve there, so these curves are not running on the same path, on the same graph. Therefore, it shows you automatically that it is a imperfect market. Imperfect market examples that we have, we know. The one we've spoken about, an oligopoly, we've got perfect monopoly. We have a monopoly where one firm is supplying everything on its own, and so on. So most of their graphs are shown by this downward slope. Let us hear what's the question. Very important mindsetters. Sometime you'll be requested to draw the actual graph. You won't be given a graph to label or answer questions on. You'll be given a question that says, draw and illustrate by means of a graph a imperfect market or a monopoly, or and so on and so on, and explain how the operation, how it works in a market. So let's see. What was the question there? It says read and answer. Question 7.1 says what? Define the concept long run. You see, I'm going to be very, very careful here. Long run. People always like, and I know mindsetters, you're always you're finding yourself in that trap. You confuse long run and long term. It's not the same thing. Right. You know, long term, you know, you're talking about situations where it's above 12 months. Some are even saying after 3 years and longer. But long run in the economy, in a market, means a firm is able to adjust both its variable factors of production and also its fixed factors of production. It must be able to adjust the two. Remember, in a short run, you cannot do the both. You can only adjust your variable factors, which is what typical example is labor as a factor of production. You can adjust. If we say, okay, yeah, we are baking 10 cakes, we've got 10 visitors coming, 10 cakes, and then all of a sudden we have an increase, we are phone telephonical, you say, hey, yeah, but we have also another 10 coming on the same immediately. There's no way we can increase our stoves and ovens, but we can call another 10 people to come and work quickly and give them extra time for that, so that they're able to beef up the labor. But with fixed factors, we are unable to do that. The only time we're able to do the two and increase both of them, our short term and short run, I'm repeating the same problem now. It's short run, and we can only increase both in the long run, our variable factors and also our fixed factors. Let us see here. It says the long run is the period of production where all factors of production, all factors can change. The time is long enough for variable and also fixed factors to change. And a typical thing to keep in your mind is simple. It says immediate term, immediate run, and short run supply curves. Immediate run supply curve is purely inelastic. It is shown by a graph like that. If you remember, it's going to be like that, so that any increase in price is going to give you the same result. When the price rises in the short run, you still have the same quantity produced. That is the supply side. So in an immediate term, it's like that. In a short run, sorry, I keep saying this term thing. It's also getting me. So we have in maybe a period of 3 to 4 months, 5, a big change can happen where we have what? At price 1, we can produce that. So it's relatively inelastic. You remember elasticity of demand or elasticity of supply. A greater change in price, this is a very little change in quantity supplied in the short term, in the short run. But immediate term is like that. Where we can actually make that big change is where then we have in the long run, we have what? A supply curve, I'll say supply curve 2, where this price and that price will cause what? A greater change in quantity supply. So remember, what we said with this question is one thing that we keep in mind: short run and short term is not the same thing. Okay, let's move on. The next question is 7.2, which says identify optimum production level. Identify optimum production level. The question says on its own. So what do you do here? What we need to do is we have to go back to our graph. There is our graph here. If we look at this now, I'm not going to redraw it, but I'll just try to explain it to you. is that we have our price or costs in cost and revenue, and we have here our quantity that is supplied and demanded. This is a firm in a monopolistic market, one, which is characterized, like I said earlier, with a downward sloping demand curve or average revenue curve. Remember what this is average revenue, but it also what represent the demand curve of a monopoly. Whilst at the same time we have our marginal revenue curve. There is our marginal revenue curve. And with that marginal revenue curve, we have also our long-term marginal costs. In most of the textbooks that we always read, we have a situation where the marginal costs is equals to marginal revenue. Point E shows us our what? Our maximum what? Production. In other words, is maximum. That is what we can produce. We can produce less than that if we like, but it means that we are going to lose. At that point, our costs will be higher than our revenue. But at that point is equal. So, but the question is not that. What is the question? It says, the question is, identify the optimum production level. Optimum production level then will be what? I know that we have already seen that it is what? 100. But why? You see, we have our profit maximization point at point E, of which any point above that, we concentrate on our demand curve. This is a curve which says, even if you can sell at this price as a monopoly, the consumers are prepared to pay higher than that. So why don't you sell it at that price? So what's going to happen is the monopoly was going to chase that price A, of which now price that point A, and then at that point A we have what? 25 rands or cents, or what, depending on what our axis is telling us there. So now our profit will be there. That is our maximum production level. Another thing to say about this maximum level is that, can we produce at 120? Nobody will say no, we can't. But as economists, we need to know that at that point, if you go to 120, then our what? Our long-term average costs are less than our.
Well, while this is happening, we just want to say that there's some more prizes to be won, and you get so many awesome opportunities. We have a survey online where we want to hear a bit more about what you guys think, what you'd like to see from Learn Extra Live. So please get onto it. Let us know what you think. And in addition to that, one lucky mindsetter will be able to win a tablet. So let's get onto it. We've got so much to do. While we're waiting, though, I think we'll take a quick break, and please join us again for some more economics. Thanks, guys. Hello, Mindsetters. We are back, and I'm so glad to be back with you. We're here with Ozzy, and we're going to carry on with some more economics. Ozzy, are you ready to go?
Good one day, good day. One also Mindsetters. We had just a little technical problem, but however, we're back again. Hope that we are grasping as much as we can in this section of paper 2. In view of time, we'll have to look at some of the questions that we have maybe just prepared for you in order to see how to attack a situation of a graph, a situation of a market there. The first question says, how can a 9-price strategy assist firms to create their market share?
I believe if you can just click on the board,
Yes.
it'll move everything. So if you just click somewhere on the board.
If I click somewhere on
Yeah,
the board.
there we go.
All right,
There we go. Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
No, pleasure.
Mindsetters, hey, we've got this now.
We're fixing problems with economics.
Yes, actually, that's the question.
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Taryn.
Sure.
The markets are broadly categorized into perfect and imperfect market. Now we are looking at two things. Perfect, and some markets are imperfect. So, it says, however, in reality, very few examples of perfect market exist. Examine conditions of a perfect market in detail. And I can see that you are all saying, oh, what a question. And the second part of the question, which only is for 10 marks, it says, draw a clearly labeled graph to show economic profits for an individual producer in that market. Firstly, the first part of the question carries a lot of weight. It says, examine conditions of a perfect market. And for 26 marks, you don't leave any stone unturned in this case. Right. Let us see what we can do here. The conditions. Some people say characteristics of a perfect market. One, we know that we are all saying that we're talking of what? Of freedom of entry. The entry, we always have to keep these in mind, mindsetters. The entry is free, and we have what? Many buyers and many sellers. The homogeneity of products, all products are homogeneous, or if you like, these ways homogeneous, they what? Identical. Identical products. In other words, we are saying there are too many close substitutes to the product, even if it's not identical, but similar kind of situation. We've got lots of information in this market. Information. So we must make sure that there's a lot and lots of information that is available. You know that when you sit at home or when you go shopping at the mall, you always get pamphlets from various supermarkets so you can compare this one or the other. So that is the information must come. There is no collusion in this market. In other words, not unlike a situation that we alluded to earlier, that we have these few sellers who come and team together to determine prices of whatever goods that's there. These ones is no collusion. One is operating far separate from the other. Although they keep what is the market trends, and they must know what other suppliers are doing and so on. But they don't team up to come together and say, this is what we can do. Right. So this is quite but a few of these markets. I'm worried about a situation of a graph that we need to label to show economic profits of an individual producer in that market. Right. I think earlier on we had spoken on a situation where we say we have this firm which is a what? It's a firm inside an industry, or rather an industry. Sometimes we say this industry for our, so that it is relevant to us, is the market. And then in this market, we take just one of these firms. Then what we are dealing with, we are looking at an individual firm in that market. And I know that you are saying inside within you that with this firm, if we have a firm in the market which is shown by a clearly defined market demand and supply, we have our equilibrium point where our price, which is determined by the market, and quantity. Remember, this is for quantity and that is for price. So OP is going to be our market price, and taking that into consideration, I'll try to increase this one. I just want people not to say, where does this demand curve come from? This demand curve comes from the market, so any individual which joins into this market is going to take that price. So we've got what? That demand curve. For now, we still call it demand curve. And I'll say DD stands for our demand curve. And then, at the same time, this is a perfect market, and then we have what? Our marginal cost curve. And remember, we said any point where the demand curve intercepts with the marginal cost is called our profit maximization point. I would say that is our point Q, our point OQ. That is our price also. But remember that demand curve, at the same time, I said running parallel, we've got our marginal revenue, which is equals to our marginal costs also, which is equals to our marginal, no, what am I saying? Which is equals to our average costs. Equals to average revenue. Then from that situation, we want to show the economic profits of this fair. If we assume that our average costs curve runs there, and we have our average costs, we can see now that both our marginal cost is maximization. Average cost is far below our marginal revenue and average revenue curves. Revenue is the money coming in, obvious. Cost is money that we lose. So if there's a difference between the two, I'll say A, B, right? And then I'll say C there, and obviously a point, the lowest point of between our average revenue and marginal revenue curve and our average cost curve. This is the distance. That distance shows that this is where our profits will lie. And then I say that will be A, B, C, and D. So that resembles our what? Economic profit. Let's see that we did try to answer the question there. It says, 1, markets are broadly categorized perfect and imperfect markets. However, in reality, very few examples of perfect markets exist. Examine the conditions of perfect market in detail. Remember that when they say in detail, for 26 marks, it's just that we don't have enough time. But boys and girls, you know that if you say those are points, you say entry is free. You then expatiate and explain what we are saying when you say entry is free. There is no barriers to entry. Anybody can open business wherever he likes. That is why the question says, in reality, there's very few examples like that. In fact, I can't think of any, because once there's something intervening in the market, then it's no longer perfect. When you start your stall here and start selling vegetables, and somebody says, no, you can't do it here. Where's the permit? Then it's no longer a perfect market. Many buyers and many sellers, you can give examples as well. You know, we've got lots of chain stores, supermarkets, which are selling identical. If you want fresh milk, you get the same in all of these stores. They're identical. So you can give examples of selling similar goods. And many people buy. Right. Information and other things. So try by all means to cover as much ground as possible so that you are able to get maximum marks. And then there's the graph here. Don't worry about that. It was just to introduce you to what we are saying. The main important thing for this is this graph here, which illustrates, then it's explaining to us what is economic profit. One question can go further. Sometimes you can have a question that's asking you more. And it says, no, Now we want economic loss. How we get economic loss in this situation? That's what's profit. Economic loss, that's our demand curve, which is equals to average revenue, which is equals to marginal revenue. And that is our marginal cost. And this is, look very carefully now, where is our average cost? Our average costs are running right above our average revenue, average cost, which then means that our average revenue is below our cost. So we are making a loss. So if we move on with this and then we realize that point A, B, C, D is going to be our what? Our economic loss. Very simple and straightforward. Then we have a simple, economics is optimistic. They don't say sometimes, you know, even if you break even, it's a situation where you have what? Assume that all debt is there. I don't have space. If we have a situation of marginal cost, and then we have our average cost. So everything is equals there. But then we call it what? Normal profit. But the question was asking you about what? That they were asking about economic profits, which is there. That is the question on macro. But let us see if we have the answers here. Let us attempt to see the answers. It's the same question. Here is the answers. They say characteristics. Remember what they say. Conditions, characteristics, those are similar. The same thing. Don't say, no, my textbook, I only know I only know the conditions, I don't know the, but there they are. Homogeneous, identical, product must be identical. There should be no differences in style, design, and quality. In this way, products compete solely in the basis of price and can be purchased anyway. So remember that in this market, we talk about price. We talk about non-price competition, because if your price is higher than everybody, nobody buys from your store, because next doors and others are selling the same product. If your price is lower than everybody, then you are going to run out of stock quickly, because some will stock from you and sell at a higher price. So you are forced to be a price taker. That's another important thing. Not as opposed to a price maker in a situation of an imperfect market or a monopoly. There should be large number of buyers and sellers. It should not be possible for one seller or seller to influence the price. Yeah. When there are many sellers, the share of each seller to the market is so small that sellers cannot influence the price. The sellers cannot influence the price in a perfect market. No preferential treatment or discrimination. Collusion occurs when buyers and sellers make an agreement to limit competition. In perfect market, no collusion takes place. We have already said that. I know that, there's some, even banks, some have actually come together to say, okay, instead of having so many banks, can we come together? And they call themselves in a particular name. That is what? A collusion in a way. So, but then they operate as one bank. But like I say clearly, we just like to use OPEC because they are the ones who influence our lives every day. If they curtail the price of petrol, they collude, they do anything in those countries. Buyers and sellers base their actions solely on price, homogeneous products, and fetch the same price, and therefore no preference is shown for buying from or selling to any particular person.
Ozzy, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but that is all we have time for. I found this absolutely incredible, and I hope you guys at home have too. There's so much more to learn, so keep going, keep revising. This is a really important time. The notes can be found on the links that we've posted on our Facebook page, so keep an eye out for that. Also, keep an eye out for all of our competitions. We're so willing to help you guys out and give you as much as we can. Make sure you check out the survey because we want to help you. We want to get you the best learning experience. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Tara, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.